So here is our Grand Am, our next derby car we're going to dive into here. A little bit over a week, about a week and a half, although I guess today's Thursday, so a week from this Saturday. We are going to run her at the Crawford County Fair. Just kind of a brief first look. You can see it is a bigger car than I've been running here with the 6-cylinder, although the Chrysler had a big 6 too, and it was actually probably heavier than this, the LHS I ran earlier. But this guy here, you can see we've already got all the glass removed. Whenever I took out the cruiser's glass, I took this one's out as well, as the door windows were already out. And inside you can see it is already stripped of its seat and most all the carpet, just a little bit of stuff here in the driver's side. As I got this car from a buddy, shout out to Justin if you watch these. He was going to flip it for a derby. Stuff came up, he just wasn't able to, so I got it. And on the back, pretty solid. The only thing kind of wrong with the car is you can see the rear axles, and it's kind of strange because they're both the same, both the left and right. They're slightly pinched in, and the rear bar there, what is it, the A-arm? I believe it's on the front and back. Again, not super knowledgeable with the terminology, is a little bent, but it rides back and forward straight, so not really a big deal. And again, it's a derby car. She's going to be all crunched up, so pretty solid. The tires are pretty worn. Really, this guy is the most bald, and he's the only one that really holds air for more than like 3 or 4 days, but the rest of them hold air for a couple days. Again, inside, she's pretty much ready to go. We're going to take out the dash so we can get a weld point. Just going to do our kind of 3-point cage, really, to the dash. And then up front, a little bit concerning. Well, first you see how this one does not have a front rebar on it. Not really sure what happened there, but you see that monster there. That is off of the wagon from last year, the Freestyle. And I messaged the Derby guys, Derby Dog. They're the promoters that run the fair that we'll be taking this to for the windshield class, and I said, can I bolt that onto this car? It's a stock rebar, it's just off the wagon. They said yep. So it's actually going to have a better rebar. The bolt holes line up well enough on each side that I'll be able to bolt it to it, so that's kind of a good thing, even though right now it seems like it'd be a bad thing. There's no front rebar. All the excess wiring and everything, again, he already had that stuff off, so saved me a little bit of work. Runs pretty good. You know, again, these cars are old. They've been sitting for a while, quite a bit of rust. Up front, I'm not sure if we're going to take out the double fan there. There's so much wiring on top of each other there. I'm probably going to. I'm not sure if I'll be able to loop, excuse me, the thermostat to or gut it and just let it cycle. I always want to pull the coolant sensor, so I got to figure out where that one is on this one. Just looking at it real quick, I didn't know where it was. Again, the air box there, we'll take all that clutter out. The fuse box is already inside the strut, so that's good to go. So hopefully not a ton of work up front, but just a little bit. And it's in particular, and it's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but there's just so much going on in there behind those fans wire wise, so we'll probably take that down. So here we go. First look. Starting into her, we think we have a pretty good derby car. Again, you never really know until the first hit or two, and even then, one little thing, you know, my last derby, the cruiser, we had set up real well, and the battery got sucked dry because whenever the motor got hot. And then the second run, I had the transmission shifter get pinned by the battery box holder up front, so a little bit of bad luck with that one. Hopefully we have better luck with this one. So here we go, time to tear into her. And the only other 2 things to add on to this, again, the batteries. I always use my U-bolts, cut the lines, tape them together real good, clamp them, run them in there. But the transmission will dupe up here. I keep saying dupe, loop up here, so that way we don't take ourselves out there. And then back here in the trunk, we'll take our jack, put it underneath there, and we will press up and around and flatten this guy so that the trunk should fold up pretty nicely. Shout out to Jarrett DeJohn, if you're watching this, as he helped me do that with the Chrysler we ran earlier in the summer, and it worked perfectly. It crimped up perfectly, so we'll do that as well for this car. So that's pretty much everything. We'll start diving into it, see what we got. So working our way just a little bit through up front, cleaning up kind of the corners that's where the all the different kind of plastic for the air filter, as well as the windshield fluid. Over here we've got the AC stuff, I don't know if that's like some sort of a filter or something, but should be able to remove that guy. But in here, I just wanted to show, because I thought this was so interesting. You see, we just took out the air box there, for the air filter. This guy, I first thought it might have been something tied to the transmission, but then I was kind of following it with the lines in that, and it runs to the brakes. And I guess it's like a proportioning valve of some kind of like helps regulates the brakes front to back. But you can see how rusted those lines are. Just touching them, I think I'm going to break them. So shout out to Ted Kobit again. Straightened me out there, and he's like, yeah, we only run front brakes and do this. I'm like, yeah, but I'm a demolition noob, so I'm probably just going to leave it stock. But I wanted to show up here again. Not sure if we're going to leave the fan out, because I'm probably not going to remove the thermostat in this car, just where it is and how it, to get to it, what I need to do. But interesting enough, the fans just pick, like almost right up. So this here again is a line for the AC. I'm going to leave that hooked up for now. Of course, I'll cut it later. But I think it's just going to pull right out, and then we'll see what we got. Just unplug the fan. Could even set it right back in if I want to. So kind of neat. Never saw that before with a car I've worked on. So just to show, there is our fan removed, and it was indeed just sitting there. There was a little clamp here for the in the top corner for the piece that was holding the AC line there, which you can see I just cut and removed it. And look at the space. This is why I like to really remove the fans. I mean, not that you always have to, and you can see the starter is tucked up under there, which I'll spray foam right up against, probably all the way to the filter there. And there's our training lines, which we'll loop back here a little ways so that they're not running into the radiator. So whenever that gets punched, you know, you lose your transmission as you're losing your fluid. But yeah, look at that space. It's almost as much as the camera I have back there now. So we'll probably leave that out, get a little bit more of these lines for the AC condenser and that. And this is like a filter, I believe, that goes to the AC there, and then it goes back to the car. So I think we're just going to cut these lines and unbolt that. And the front end is opening up. Simple, but effective. So just a quick update before we clean up the front, and we are going to be done for pretty much up here. Got that filter, whatever it was, and actually both lines that went out, up kind of the frame rail here and then back, were tied to that AC condenser filter, whatever it was. So we took those out, swapped the tires, the back left front to the right front, or excuse me, the back left tire to the right front, as that tire had a little bit more tread and the other one was bald. I mean, they're all pretty bald. But just wanted to show, before I clean up these wires, here are all the wires, as you can see here, coming out of the front. This one was for the impact sensor, which is sitting right there. And then all of these were headlight and blinkers and such like that. So I'm going to clip them, because these, pretty much all of these don't unclip. This guy might actually, but most of these little guys don't unclip. So I'm going to cut them, tape them up individually, and then tape them all together in a bundle, and then I'll tuck them inside the car. Same thing over here. Here's all, again, these excess things. And then I'm going to unhook. I already unhooked the one sensor here to the overflow, the coolant overflow, and then there's another one here. I'm going to unplug those, make sure I mark them so I don't mix them up, so that I can take all this line here and run it inside, and I'll kind of ratchet strap it, probably honestly inside to the fender, where I might actually use that guy there, the part of the AC, what is that, the AC pump there, to just keep them off the motor, off the radiator. And again, I'm going to spray foam the starter and then run them over here so they're out of the way of the belt as well. That way they're not out in front here. So that'll actually be a nice setup. So yeah, just crazy how many wires there were. But we're going to clip those, tape them up, and then clip our battery terminals, get the U-bolts on there. They're sitting there. And run the battery line in. We're ready to get to the dash. She's coming together. So just a little update here as we're finishing for the day. You can see there are no more, I mean, that guy is hanging down over there. That is the fan. 2 plugs, one for each of the fans. I left it there because I'm not sure if I'm going to put the fan back on. I don't think I am, but for now I just left it there. But you'll see all the other lines, got them taped up, and then I tried to get them as far into the car as we could, so you see them there. Have them ratchet, or not ratchet strap, but rather zip tied, just to kind of keep them together. And then they're running over, have them zip tied there, zip tied here in the corner, and then I plugged them back in. There were 2 plugs for the radiator overflow, or the coolant overflow there. Got the U-bolts, again, cut the battery terminals up here. Got the U-bolts on there, run into the car, she fires up. Interesting little find. This was on the plastic container there of the air filter, and I was like, huh, I wonder if that's to help it release, because it worked fine with it on. Well, sure enough, it was. So I'm gonna have to find the tension out for that little just bungee cord, maybe see if I can do it a better way. It seems to, the throttle, once you get on, it works fine, but then it stays like at a high throttle, it doesn't properly release. So have to look a little bit into that, but otherwise it is close to done up front. Just have there are our 2 radiator, or excuse me, 2 lines going to the radiator. That's our transmission lines. We'll loop those, and she's pretty much done up front. Find the coolant sensor, hook that up. I don't think we're going to mess with the thermostat. So got her up on stands. Tomorrow I'm going to do a couple more things, and then we're going to weld the cage and drop the tank. So coming along, she fired up, she runs. A little bit of a hiccup with the throttle there, but not a big deal. Even if it's running, hey, as long as it's stuck running gas, I can just put it in gear and rip, so good deal. So here we are now. We have relocated out of the pole barn. We've got her up on the ramps. We have successfully dropped the tank, although it was a battle of rust in the face. The gas lines, oh my goodness. Let me see if I can just briefly show. There's a old brake line that was so rusted they replaced it, but underneath here it is, that's all just from trying to get it down. So there is the old brake lines. I believe you can see they've been cut. Here are the 3 gas lines. That first one there my finger's on was for the kind of like a filter, the big box thing. The middle line I think is a return. This is the main line, has the kind of filter, I guess, but that's the main gas line, and you can see how rusted they are all the way up to kind of that junction right there, which I don't know if it was replaced. I don't think it was. There's actually a leak right here. Whenever I was loading the car, the muffler, which was an aftermarket one, bottomed out, and it caught on my trailer and then caught on this, and it, I mean, you can see there's a little bit of dripping, and it leaks each time. But yeah, she is rusted under here, and oh, just eating it in the face for about 30 minutes or so underneath there. But yeah, here we are again. That big ugly, I believe we do not need, so it is running this. So I believe I'll just pop him off. These 2 main line, and then I think return line is how it's set up. These are just the electronics, so you can see this tank just a little kind of dirty, scummy, but again, how I do it is I have my universal tank here. That again is the cruiser's fuel cell. I'm going to unbolt that now and take that off, and then pull out that, and then put it on here. And the problem is going to be on 2 ends, so I'm not sure how we're going to do it. It's a small fuel cell, which is actually a hindrance for how I use it with my universal tank, because it's got to come around here and have enough to kind of grab, or have enough to grab around here and here, that it should be fine. So I think that's what we're going to end up doing. We're going to have kind of like a floating section here, where from here over to here, there's going to be nothing under my metal kind of clamp that goes down, but it should still work. That guy just turns and comes out, so I'll do that before I trace it. So yeah, a little tricky, not quite as easy as some other vehicles I've done, but you know, not as catastrophic or hard. So we got the cage in there, went pretty well. Again, weld the doors first, not a great weld, but then I try to make a good weld. Not great, but I have a cheap welder, but should be good enough, and a good weld going across. Dash and everything is out. You can see there, pretty easy. The key ignition there as well as the speedometer and all that, I'll zip tie down so they're secure. Otherwise, pretty good to go up front. Just put some spray foam around the battery, or the starter, excuse me. These are the tranny lines. You can see there I've looped them. I'll kind of tie, get the camera, there we go. There's the tranny lines. I looped them. I'll kind of tie that with a zip tie just so it's up off the ground and in. Get rid of these guys, which they're so crimping old. I'm moving back and forth, no break. And I do believe we are going to put the fan back in. It just sets in there. Here's the plugs for it. I'll just plug it back in. And again, the throttle sticks, which I'm not totally sure why, because it seems to release fine. But I'm going to worry about that at the end, and even if I can't get that straightened out, not a big deal. So the tank is really it. Bumper I have, we'll put on before we paint it. And that's what we're diving into now. So here we go.